This module is the Value Analysis Report, Common Problems Encountered. I'm Doug Maitland. I'm the manager of the Acquisition Services section, and I'll be the one presenting this module. The purpose of this module is to highlight potential issues encountered by those preparing the Value Analysis Report. We'll also provide guidance when these issues are encountered. The 5 most common issues are going to be presented on the next slide. Here are those issues. Number 1, there's a problem when the whole property and the larger parcels are not the same. There's a problem if the highest and best use of the residue property is different than the highest and best use before the taking. There is a problem if the property before the taking and/or after the taking doesn't conform to the zoning code. There's a problem of not recognizing if an element of the part taken or an issue affecting the residue property is compensable or not. And there's a problem using comparable sales that are not reflective of the property as a vacant site before the taking. So let's talk about the first problem. There's a problem when the whole property and the larger parcel or parcels are not the same. Ideally, the whole property and the larger parcel should be the same when dealing with a waiver value situation. A problem occurs when they are not the same. So what is a whole property and what is a larger parcel? All right, let's start with the whole property. The concept of the whole before the taking is established by the Ohio Supreme Court in the case known as Schaefer v. Sowers. Points made in that decisions that affect valuations in Ohio are the entirety of the property that is under the same ownership must be valued as if one buyer was going to purchase the whole property. Second point, if there are separate interests or estates, they are regarded as one estate and are valued as one whole. And the third point, it is not proper to individually value the component parts of the whole. The sum of the separate values of the divided estates cannot exceed the value of the property as a whole. So here's an example to illustrate those points. We have 2 parcels. Parcel A, it's a single-family home, zoned single-family residential, on a lot fronting a street. Parcel B abuts the home, but it's developed commercially with a 4-unit retail property and it's zoned commercial. And we have a WD taking from the frontage. Again, assume the same person owns both lots. Do we have one value analysis scenario or do we have 2 value analysis scenarios? What is the whole property? What is the larger parcel? All right, so the whole property is parcels A and B combined. And so the question is why? A and B are the entirety of the property that is under the same ownership, and this whole must be valued as if one buyer was going to purchase the whole property. There are probably 2 larger parcels. Larger parcel has unity of ownership, has contiguity, and it has unity of use. Parcels A and B have unity of ownership and contiguity, but they don't share unity of use, which is an integrated highest and best use. Therefore, under the larger parcel concept, A and B would be valued separately. In this situation, the whole property and the larger parcel are not the same. So how do we value the whole? Well, it's improper to estimate the value of parcel A based on the proposition that one buyer would buy just this property based on its highest and best use as a single-family residential, and then value parcel B based on the proposition that one buyer would just buy this property based on its highest and best use as commercial and retail. And then sum those 2 independent values and call that aggregate number the value of the whole. That's improper. This methodology does not represent what one buyer would pay for the whole. Instead, it represents what a buyer would pay for A and what a different buyer would pay for B. So, what is the correct way to value the whole that consists of more than one standalone parcel? You can either find sales that are similar to the whole, which is a mixed-use property, and the reality of that is it's probably going to be difficult, or value each parcel separately, then sum those values together, then develop a discount rate that reflects how much less one buyer would pay for the whole. And that discount rate would consider many things that may include the profit the buyer would make by selling each parcel separately, the time needed to do that, and what other safe investments would return. Then discount that summed number of two independent values into a value that one buyer would pay for the whole property. Obviously, this is no longer a simplistic valuation process. In some instances, a seemingly small nominal taking can create a complex valuation issue or problem, which is not appropriate for the waiver valuation process. Now, let's look at the larger parcel concept. You've seen this before. It's the same case with a single-family home abutting another property that's developed with a 4-unit retail property. Same WD taking impacting both properties, small strip take along the road. Parcel A and Parcel B. Now, let's have a different assumption. Assume A and B are owned by different people, and that there's no relationship between the properties. What is the whole and what is the larger parcel? All right, the larger parcel. It's defined from Valuation and Litigation, second edition on page 75. It's the portion of the property having unity of ownership, contiguity, and unity of use. And from another source, from the Uniform Standards of Federal Land Acquisitions, and that's also known as the Yellow Book, the 2016 edition, which is the most recent, section 1.4.6, larger parcel analysis, a single continuous tract may consist of a single larger parcel or multiple larger parcels. In the most recent example, there are two larger parcels because there's no unity of ownership between parcels A and B, owned by separate people. Each of the parcels is owned by a different person. There is contiguity between parcels A and B. That means they abut one another. And there is no unity of use between parcels A and B. A is a single-family residential use that probably can't be used for anything else due to zoning. And parcel B is a use of retail commercial. So A and B don't meet two of the tests for a combined larger parcel. So valuing the larger parcel, the parcel is valued as an independent standalone property. In a value analysis scenario, the entire larger parcel is valued as a vacant site before the taking. The unit value of the site is applied or allocated to the area taken to estimate the value of the land taken. Site improvements in the take are also valued, as are temporary easements needed for construction. The total of land taken plus improvements taken plus temporary easements equal the compensation estimate. In this situation, Parcel A is both a whole property and a larger parcel. Parcel B is also its own whole property and its own larger parcel. Both meet the tests for a whole property. Parcel A contains the entirety of all estates and is valued as one whole, as if one buyer bought that whole property. Same with B. Both meet the tests of being an independent larger parcel. Each parcel has unity of use, unity of ownership, and is not contiguous with any other common ownerships or uses. So now that you know what a whole property is and what a larger parcel is, what do you do when you run into a situation where the whole property and the larger parcel are not the same? You call the ODOT district office you're working for. That office will involve whomever is necessary to understand the situation and will provide guidance as needed. These situations are handled on a case-by-case basis. It's now time for a knowledge check.